All right, welcome back everybody to Oshkosh Live. As you've seen throughout the week, we've had an opportunity to get some of our Editor's Choice Award winners on here, and that's what we're doing right now with our team from ForeFlight. They won an award for the Sentry Plus, so why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about the Sentry Plus and what makes it new, any additions to it, what makes it new, different, better than other products that might be on the market.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're super excited to be here and super honored to receive the award. Sentry Plus, of course, is our all-in-one ADS-B weather and traffic receiver. But when I say all-in-one, I really do mean all-in-one. It's got a lot more than that. It's got a WASP GPS, a carbon monoxide sensor. It has an accelerometer in it that can actually track the bumps, the turbulence as you're flying, a ton of other incredible features. It's something we've been working on in partnership with Avionics for some time.
Absolutely.
Integrates directly to ForeFlight. It's literally one button, broadcasts Wi-Fi, and connects. Super popular device, and again, honored to receive the award.
Absolutely. Yeah, we appreciate it very much.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, we appreciate it very much, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's probably the most flight-changing EFB edition for most pilots. I mean, it's kind of ubiquitous. Everybody's got one because it integrates so well with other apps and everything.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful piece. The G meter, how many, if you got an email say, hey, pulled 7 Gs in mine?
Yeah, it'll record it all.
Okay.
And people can record their track logs in ForeFlight, of course, and they can see where they were going. If they're doing aerobatics, you'll see the Gs you're pulling directly in ForeFlight, which is pretty cool. But one of my favorite features in the Sentry Plus is the accelerometer. And because it has an accelerometer in it, we put our heads together and started thinking about, the accelerometer can track bumps and turbulence along the way, and there's so many of these pilots flying with Sentry devices now. What if we sort of connected the Sentry device to the ForeFlight system and allowed essentially a real-time turbulence report to happen automatically without the pilot having to do anything? And that's exactly what we built. So in the latest version of ForeFlight, we have this feature, it's called Reported Turbulence. And these are real-time turbulence reports that are being made by pilots flying with Sentry. Sentry records the turbulence that pilots experience. It stores that information. As soon as that pilot connects to internet, either via cellular or Wi-Fi, it uploads that information, and every other pilot can see exactly where the turbulence is, either laterally on the map or vertically in the profile view in ForeFlight. So it's kind of an example of us taking existing products that we've worked on and putting them together and making them even more valuable.
So in near real time, because it depends on when a pilot plugs in, you're essentially getting pilot reports without the pilots having to call in or do any work.
That's exactly
right.
And
that gets all transferred to the ForeFlight that everybody else has in their cockpit.
That's exactly right, and it's automated, and because the accelerometer is so sensitive, everything is calibrated based on the EDR scale for turbulence, the eddy dissipation rate scale, which just means that it's an objective measure of turbulence. Light to someone is moderate to someone else, but because the accelerometer is so sensitive, it records it on an EDR scale, and that translates directly to the depiction on the display.
That's interesting. It takes sort of the pilot perspective out of it and gives you a much cleaner data on the data. So what is the turbulence range? Like what's moderate turbulence? Is that 1 G?
Yeah, exactly. So there are specific EDR values that we've scoped to different levels of turbulence. So in ForeFlight, you'll see smooth air, no turbulence at all. You'll see light, moderate, heavy, and those are mapped to specific different EDR values. And all that information, like everything else in ForeFlight, all the nitty-gritty details which you get asked about, are built into the app in the pilot's guide. So the pilot can go into the pilot's guide directly in the Documents tab and see all the specific details about how that's done.
And does the pilot need to select activate turbulence in the drop-down menu, or does it just show up automatically in boxes on the map?
It's a map layer, and so they can turn it on. So if they go to the layer selector in ForeFlight, they can select reported turbulence, and as long as they've connected their Sentry and registered their Sentry with us, they'll see that turbulence tab.
That's a fairly robust list of data and layers. Is there any limit to how many things pilots can turn on at once?
It is. So there's, as ForeFlight, of course, was founded back in 2007. We've come a long way, and we've released new features on a monthly basis, and so there's, as you can see in the layers, just the layer selector here, there's a ton of different stuff. We've done a lot of work, a lot of software engineering work to make sure that the application can support multiple visualizations simultaneously, not just from like a visualization perspective, but from like a battery life perspective, right? Making sure that it's not draining the battery a ton when you're doing lots of different things. The layer selector does have some rules built in, and there's certain things that can be displayed simultaneously and other things can't. But in general, the pilot can select many different things at once and build up different levels of situational awareness.
Okay. So with all these enhancements and product developments you're doing, how does a pilot stay abreast of that? Is there a newsletter we can sign up to, or how do we find out?
Yeah, so there's always something new in ForeFlight. A common request we got from customers over the years is, what's the best way to stay up to date, learn about all the new Steep features? we started thinking about it and we decided, we have a really incredible video content library on our website. Every time we make a release, we have a little 5-minute video on the features in that release. We have longer courses, beginner courses, advanced courses, and that's always been available on our website. But in the latest version of ForeFlight, we actually built the video courses directly into the application.
Nice.
So under the Discover tab in ForeFlight, you can access a ton of different video courses, as well as aviation events. So we've worked with the folks at EAA and AOPA to build their event feeds directly into the app. So if you were looking for an aviation event, a chapter meeting, an air show, a fly-in to check out, you can now go directly into ForeFlight to see all that information.
Well, that's wonderful. And so when I turn on my ForeFlight for the first time, I haven't flown in a week, will I get an alert that says there's new messages or new events? Or?
Yeah, so these events are updated every 24 hours, and so you'll see every day, basically, when you come into the Discover tab, you'll see new events. And a common question we're getting from folks is, well, I have an event that I'm hosting, an aviation event. How do I get that into ForeFlight so everyone can see it? And the answer is really simple. You just need to submit it to EAA or AOPA on their websites, and as long as you do that, it'll show up in ForeFlight.
If it gets on their calendar, it gets on your ForeFlight.
Exactly right.
Another question I got just the other day was, if I'm in flight and I'm like, I want to see what's going on near my destination,
Right.
that Ryan and his team have been able to build in the ability to store the information before you take off as well. And that's been really great.
Exactly. Once the events are on the app, they're stored, so they're available offline. So if you want to see what's going on at your destination, it's right there.
So I'm curious, talking about different layers, I love the fuel layer there. How often is that updated? Does it just depend on what information they provide to you, or who do they provide the information to for you to get it in that layer?
Yeah, so
Fuel price.
so for folks who aren't familiar, you can visualize the current fuel prices at lots of different FBOs and businesses in ForeFlight. It's updated on a rolling basis. It's constantly updated. There's basically 2 ways to update it. We work one-on-one with fuel providers and FBOs that submit their latest prices to us. That propagates down to the app.
Like once a week or daily, or just up to them?
It's up to them. We obviously encourage providers to submit it
Keep
as
it current,
often as
right?
possible, but it is up to them. And then we also have in the airport view an ability for customers to provide feedback on the fuel prices. Was this price correct? If it wasn't, it was a little more, it was a little less, that gets submitted to us, and we can modify the price that way as well.
Okay. That's a great feature. If you're making a fuel stop, you got an airport 10 miles this way, 20 miles that way, it might be worth it to go an extra couple miles and save $2 a gallon.
Absolutely.
I fly to an airport, it's 6 minutes away to save almost $2 a gallon. So I check that every time I start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fill it up, ferry the fuel back to my airport.
It's worth it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what are the latest features? I know it's got to be hard to keep up with them all. What's been the most recent thing? Anything right before the show? Anything at the show?
Yeah, so a bunch of the stuff we talked about basically just came out in some of our most recent stuff, but we've also been working on a new product for Apple Vision Pro. You want to talk about that, Jay?
Yeah, so the Apple Vision Pro is Apple's latest device. You know the iPhone, you know the iPad, obviously. ForeFlight's been on those since day one. And now with the Apple Vision Pro coming out earlier this year, when Apple announced it last summer, ForeFlight decided we really want to get in on this, but it's a totally different device. It's something you wear on your face, so you're not going to be wearing it in the cockpit. So what do? And so our team thought really hard about it. We have a dedicated team called ForeFlight Labs, and they are looking into the future of what we could do. And so we made basically flight tracking in a spatial environment. So you can open the Vision Pro and open Voyager, our app, and it will pull up an airport right in front of you. You'll see the airports in 3D above you. What's really cool, my favorite airport, and our team is tired of hearing me say this week, but it is pulling up LAX. So you pull up that airspace, departures and arrivals are usually to the west. So you see everyone taking off to the west, they're turning back east. You see them physically on top of each other in the device. But there's also the VFR corridor right over LAX through the Bravo Shelf. So you see those aircraft and so many airports nearby. It's just a really fun experience. We've also got an agreement with Live ATC, so you can listen to air traffic control while you're watching these aircraft take off and land. So it takes, as someone who